Hi, this is Diane, Dieterich of C3D, and since this is the most often asked question I get in my class, I thought it was about time I answered it. So the question is, if I have a curved wall and I'm trying to make a window on it, I do it here, and I can't push it to the back, nothing's happening. I try to draw it on this side, I get this weird thing. So how do I make a window or an opening through a curved wall? So here's one of those I don't know what I don't know questions, because what you're really asking is how do I use the Intersect with Model tool. There's no tooltip, even in the large tool set, to find Intersect with Model. It is under Edit, Intersect Faces, or when you right-click when we're all set up in the context menu, which is how we're going to access it. But hey, let's back up for one quick little lesson first. So what if you don't even know how to make a curved wall? Let me just show you quickly a couple different ways to do it. I'm going to make a rectangle that's 20 feet long by 10 feet deep, just because I know I want this curved wall to be 20 feet long. I know, using my tape measure tool, that I want it to be, type in 1 foot. It's going to be my little curve, and then I'm going to take my 2-point arc tool. I'm going to click on one endpoint, click on the second endpoint, and pull out until I snap to that line. Then I'm going to erase the line. Now I could pick this tool. I could do a move and copy. I could also do offset. I'm just going to click till I find that red box on the edge. I'm going to drag it away, type in 1 foot, and then I'm going to pick that curved shape that I just made, and with the push-pull tool, pull it up. And then I'll just use my erase tool to get rid of the extra lines. So I can't draw that rectangle right inside my curved wall, so what I actually need to do is to draw a cube off to the side, the size of the window opening that I'm going to want. So I'm going to pick the rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw a cube. I can measure this out. In fact, you probably will need to, but I'm just going to do this quickly. And then I'm going to push it back, and basically I'm going to take this shape and I'm going to stick it through this wall. So first of all, I'm going to make it into a group, and I'm going to move it over to the wall. And then I'm going to show you two different things that happen depending on if I explode this group or not. And this took me a while to figure out, so thought I'd share it with you. So usually you would make this in a group, otherwise when you moved it in the wall, it would stick to the wall when you were trying to move it away. So basically, where these two different sets of geometry intersect, you can see there's not actually a black line like there's lines around everything else in our model. If you move it, you'll see that even though one is punching through the other, they really aren't interacting with each other. They're totally separate pieces of geometry. So to get one to punch through the other, we need to use that tool, Intersect with Model. And that will let this interact with that and let us remove this and leave the void that is now the shape cutting through it behind. So just FYI, I'm using SketchUp Make just so that everyone could follow along. If you have SketchUp Pro, you can do this with a little more elegance than we can. Now I'm going to select the geometry that I want to intersect. Since it's everything in a model, I can just draw a selection box around all of it. Obviously, if you're working in a bunch of stuff, you need to be a little more selective. But it's usually easier if you can move your two different pieces of geometry off to the side. It just makes it less confusing so you don't accidentally get other pieces of geometry behind this into the picture. So everything's selected. I'm just going to right-click. Again, I could go to the context menu under Edit, and I'm going to say Intersect Faces with Model. We could use with selection if we had just, again, certain pieces of geometry we'd selected, but I'm just going to use with Model. When I do that, you can now see that I have dark lines around where everything was connected. And if I now take this group and move it away, I now at least have this box, even though I don't have a hole in my wall yet. If I select the front face and the back face, I now have holes in my wall, though I don't actually have the geometry on the sides of this opening. I can create them using Align tools just to basically recreate what's missing. Oops. And in this case, that was pretty quick and simple. But let me show you something that I learned over time, so you don't have to. You can learn it now. So again, I have, I just made a copy of what we were doing before. So I've got the group, the curved wall. So if I take the group and explode it, and now I'm going to go to Intersect Faces with Model. Because I exploded this, I can't easily move this shape away. So I'm going to have to, it's just fastest to go ahead and erase it. And it looks like I am back with those same shapes that I had before. But this time, if I delete them, you can see that by exploding this first group, I now have nice edges left over. So you can figure out whether that's worth it or not for you to do. Sometimes the shape that you're trying to cut through might be a group itself already like that. So in that case, if we tried to do intersect model here, you can see if I moved the cube aside and I move this aside, I actually have this left because what I was doing was I was drawing the intersect on top of this model. I wasn't inside the group where I could edit it. So I'm just going to go back to where I was. So in this instance, I have to get into the edit mode of the group that I'm trying to cut through. I have to get inside of it, so SketchUp will let me do things inside of that group. So I'm going to double click on the group inside. So now I'm in the edit mode. You can tell because you have the little blue dots over everything. You've got the dotted bounding box around everything. Now I can select it all. I can right click and I can go to Intersect Faces with Model. And now I can take this and move it away. But you can see that my little boxes that I've made are now inside the group. So again, I have to get into edit mode to get rid of them. Another time I find the Intersect with Model tool incredibly helpful is I want to use it almost as a cutting plane to get rid of things that I don't want in a model. So I'm working on this restaurant. I need to make a dining booth kind of like this corner, but this is really the style of booth that comes closest to the components in here matching what I want to use. So let me show you a cool trick how to use the Intersect with Model tool to make a booth, a corner booth, out of this single-sided booth seat. And let's say thanks to Robert Pierce for providing this model. I'm going to go ahead and download it directly into my SketchUp model. I have a clean slate here. I don't need all the rest of it, so I'm going to right click and explode, and I'm going to get rid of all these pieces until I'm down to just this one booth. I'm also going to scale it to make it a little wider so it's a little easier to work with. So if I want to make two copies of this booth and put them together, basically I need to make like a 45-degree miter cut here so the other one can go off in this direction. And I can use this Intersect with Faces tool to do that. First of all, I'm just going to make a rectangle, and basically this is going to act as my cutting plane. I'm going to go ahead and make it a group just till I get it where I want it. So I'm going to move it back to the edge of my model. And I'm going to use the rotate tool to rotate it. The shortcut for rotate again is Q. Remember, if you're having trouble with it flipping around, just get it oriented in the axis you want it, hold down Shift, and then it won't flip around. I'm going to go ahead and rotate this 45 degrees, hit 45, enter. It's going to have to be bigger because I need it to be as big as the model that I'm cutting through. And then I'm going to move it into place. So you want to make sure that the plane is cutting all the way through the model. If it was here, I was going to have problems because it would leave part of the model uncut. So I've got it positioned. I'm going to go ahead and move it over to the edge of my model. Now remember, like before, that this is a component, so if I try to just intersect without being in the edit mode, I would just draw on top of the model. So again, I'm going to go ahead and double click, so I'm now in edit mode inside the model. I'm just going to draw a selection box around everything. I'm going to right click and say Intersect Faces with Model. Then I can go ahead and get rid of this extra cutting plane, and you can see what's left is that it has cut basically a 45-degree miter angle all the way through my booth. And if I get into this in the edit mode, I can just start erasing all this extra geometry until I have this part that I need left, which looks a little odd right now, but next we're going to put this and its copy together and it's going to look great. Okay, now we have half of one of the L shapes of our booth, but we need to create the second one. So the easiest way to do that is we're going to select this, make a copy of it, move it to the right, and we're going to use a command called flip along to mirror it along itself. So sometimes it's hard to know which direction you're going to mirror it, and again, flip along, if you right click, it's down here towards the bottom, and it gives us the option of flipping along the red, green, or the blue axes. So sometimes it's hard to remember which is which. Blue, you just know it's going to turn it upside down, so we almost never want that. But if you look at these colored axes, we want it to flip itself along this axis, so it's the opposite. So this time we're going to say flip along red, and now I need to rotate it 90 degrees. I could use the rotate tool, but again, remember, if you pick the move tool, when you get these little red plus buttons, you could also quickly rotate around those. And then I'm going to move from this endpoint to this endpoint. And voila, we've got our great new corner banquet. Hope that little intro to the Intersect with Model tool was helpful. If you want to learn more, watch my YouTube videos, watch other YouTube videos, or if you really just want a quick beginning to end, this is how basic SketchUp works. I also have an online tutorial class, 6 hours, SketchUp Basecamp. Here's more info. Thanks.